Okay, I wanted to touch base with everybody because by and large, I imagine that most of the country is going to be shut down with regards to the schools. We already have, I think, 5 or 6 states, and it's growing all the time, okay, that have already shut down. I have a practice in New Mexico. They've shut down for 3 weeks, okay? I know Alabama starting on Wednesday. Some schools starting Monday are shut down for 2.5 weeks. So I can see this expanding. So everybody just sort of needs to be prepared. So I have a couple questions that have been asked. I'm Ask a Special Education Attorney, and people have reached out to me in direct ways to sort of get my take on what happens during this time period for those children that have IEPs, 504s, that are entitled to free and appropriate public education. How does this play into it? Now, I have two links, one from the Council of Parent Attorney Advocates, which is COPAA, which I belong, and then also from the Federal Department of Education with regards to their Q&A on what they advise schools to do during the shutdown. Now, COPA doesn't necessarily agree with the Federal Department of Education's stance. I tend to take more of a reasoned approach. Now, I can see it from both directions, okay? So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with COPA outright, but at the same time, what I don't want to do is I don't want to get parents all hyped up on sort of an extreme position, which I'm not necessarily disagreeing with regards to a school's duty to provide a free and appropriate public education. But what I'm saying is getting parents hyped up about missing some days or some procedural violations when the thing that hearing officers, judges care about is whether that created actual harm with the child with regards to regression and stagnation and progression. But all those things have to be proven, and not only that is, it has to be proven over the period of implementation for that IEP. A 2.5 week, 3 week shutdown, when in the normal course of a calendar year, we get about 2 weeks at Christmas, we get about a week Thanksgiving before that. Some schools have a week for fall break, spring break. You have an entire expanse of summer to where only a smidgen of kids are entitled to extended school year services. Under that recoupment of skills analysis. So I look at it from that perspective. Now, this is the kicker, and this is where I do agree with the Department of Education, which I guess also I would agree with COPA. If the schools are telling general education students that they need to continue to do work and they move their schooling online, and there is continuing to be education during this down period, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it doesn't matter, then at that point it becomes a discriminatory issue because you're not treating special education kids equally with your general education students. So if there's any kind of education going on during the shutdown for general education students, then yes, special education needs to be treated the same way and services provided. Now, what's nice and what's beautiful about the IDEA is that we have mechanisms already in the law that allow us to do these kind of things. Homebound, telehealth, moving instruction onto devices like this, to where we're using the internet and we're using technology for remote classrooms or remote instruction. Now, that's going to take a little bit of effort from the school system, but if you're handing iPads or computers to kids and requiring them to go to Google Classroom and all other things to continue to receive their education over a shutdown, then hey, you guys are the ones that put yourself in a pickle, and you cannot discriminate against our kids that have IEPs. And then 504s, you've got to be given accommodations during this time period. Now, if you're not providing any services and you're not requiring anything of your general education students, then how I would look at this is like an extended break, like Christmas, like summer. Now, at the same time, I look at it from that capacity. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean that we're not looking at the recoupment of skills. There are some states that are considering extending the school year to make up for this time. So you sit there and you go, okay, that's where you have to worry about whether or not this created enough of a disruption to create regression or stagnation and progression. And if that's the case, then I just had this discussion in a school meeting today. What a school district should be doing is then expanding their ESY offerings, their summer programs, and lessening the standard with regards to their analysis of recoupment to make up for that. So school districts coming back, especially if they were not providing services to the general education students, that's where I do agree with COPAA. That does not absolve the school system. But what I'm also telling you is that you've got to be reasonable, that this sort of came out of nowhere. And so a lot of schools just are not prepared to address this problem, this conundrum that we're all facing. So that's where you need to be a little bit flexible. The schools can make this up, but they need to make it up once you return, more than likely over the summer, in the form of, let's say, an expanded summer offering, expanded ESY. Or the ones that did think ahead can move some of this instruction into venues like this, okay? But I don't think we're gonna, I don't think schools are really gonna do that. But you know, the concern, if you read the COPAA, you know, the concern is that when the kid's out of school and it is in this kind of situation, even though it is a stated emergency, you know, the government really can't sit there and get rid of FAPE. I mean, the Secretary of Education doesn't have that power, and neither does the governor of the state. The FAPE requirement is still there. But what I ask parents to do is to, you know, try to be patient and reasonable with this. I mean, the big concern for me, quite frankly, in this emergency, is all those families out there that, let's say, are one income earners, and you know, childcare, the disruptions that it causes in that realm with regards to just being able to financially survive during the next 3 weeks or a month. That's more of a concern to me than, you know, making up these services. Those are important, but I think that all of us sort of need to keep in mind the families out there that did not plan or just don't know what they're going to be able to do with regards to being able to make it to work, and that's if the work's even open. And so those are the things that I'd like everybody to sort of keep on their radar. Those of us that just keep in mind, look out for each other, you know, because those are the things that the education department's not necessarily thinking about, and neither is COPAA. Is, you know, of course we're concerned with that, everybody's health, but at the same time, you know, you also need financial support to make it in this world. So, you know, that's a big concern because of this disruption in childcare and in some people's jobs. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Trying to see how far I've gone on this. But if you have any questions, I mean, put them in the comment bar. I'm going to be, you know, I always check it. You know, it just sort of depends on my time. And, oh, you know, guys, now that everything's shutting down, seriously, we're going to have a great seminar on Tuesday with regards to the NJRF Supreme Court decision and how it applies with regards to the standard of FAPE, and then how schools are actually using it to lower the bar based upon where they peg your child with some of these more traditional assessments, you know, stating that that's their level of capability. So therefore, that's where they sort of tie the dinghy of expectation. And so, you know, there's a lot of strategies that we're going to be discussing on how to navigate around that, and what you need to do to advocate for your child to raise that level of what a free and appropriate public education is for your child, so that we can maximize that NJRF standard. I think that we can do that. I think it's easy to do, but you've got to have the knowledge base in order to understand that and how to apply it correctly. That's what we're doing Tuesday night. Now, if they're shutting down everything, I mean, you know, what do you got to do? Get some popcorn, sit in front of your TV, and be entertained by me. Okay, stay safe out there, and that's my take on all of this, okay, with regards to what FAPE is during this period. And those of you schools that were stupid and, you know, telling all your general education students that they needed to continue to work and access Google Classroom, sorry, you shouldn't have done that. You're not off the hook. I mean, I have schools do stupid stuff like not send notices home for pictures for special education students. Those things are preventable. But what that also sends the message to me is those kids don't exist. See, the special ed kids don't exist. So if decisions were made to send general education students home to keep their education going during this period, but no contingency plan and no thought was given to special ed students, then you deserve everything coming to you. Okay?